Good morning. You have to excuse the bedhead. I'd say 90% of the time I make these videos, it hits me early in the morning, and if I don't capture it right now, I'll talk myself out of it. So today I want to talk about something that was another life changer. It was another thing I came up with or learned how to do and got nowhere with it, like many things I've dabbled into. But I want to go back a little bit and talk about my time in school, which leads up to water ran cars. So I was raised in the state of Illinois, and my parents moved us out to Oregon, I think in 1979. And when I was going to middle school, they were trying a new radical technique for teaching English, and that was memorization. But when my parents moved us to Oregon, they were still doing your typical pronunciation, and it really messed me up in school. So my parents had me go to a off-campus psychologist to evaluate my learning disability. And back then they didn't have ADHD, they didn't have ADD, they didn't have dyslexia, which I tell people I'm actually Lexdysia. So this counselor came up with that I have a learning disability. So when I got into high school, they put me in special ed classes. And at that time, I don't think puberty kicked in, so I wasn't embarrassed. All I know is I was doing 4+4 forever, sitting in a classroom with people that were truly mental retarded. And I was like, oh, is this all I have to do when I graduate high school? It wasn't until I hit puberty, and believe me, it was overnight. I remember the day going into school and women turned into goddesses. It was really interesting, and I remember that when that kicked in. I think it was a sophomore, the ending year of sophomore. I got up and walked out of the class and went into my school counselor's office, Larry Arbor, great counselor, and told him I can't be in that class anymore. And he's like, well, you're not going to graduate, you're way behind. And I was like, I don't care. And it's because puberty was hitting, and it was embarrassing. I did horribly in school, especially in English. They threw me in basic English, and pretty much in that class we watched a movie and he'd have us write an essay about it. That's it. It was my first class in the mornings. Barely passed that class. U.S. history I couldn't even get into, and my counselor said, what's going on? You have to pass this, it's required. And I said, well, I don't believe it. He's like, what do you mean you don't believe it? I said, I don't know. I just don't believe it. It doesn't add up in my head, and I don't care what George Washington's teeth are made out of. If I need to know this, I'll go to the library and look it up in life. It's before computers. He says, okay, I'm going to put you in oceanography, and if you pass that, I'll count that as your as the required class replacing U.S. history. Well, I got B+ in these type of classes: geology, oceanography, and obviously art and architect classes. I didn't graduate from high school. I was 2.5 electives away from it. This is a true story. 11 years later, I ran across my school counselor in a bar. I'm wearing a suit and tie because I owned a business at this time, and we had a few drinks, laughs, and I told him I passed all the required classes. I was 2.5 electives away. I mean, I could have took guitar lessons and passed and graduated. But he asked me, he says, do you have a business license? I go, yeah. He says, well, come on into the school Monday, and if it shows that you were only 2.5 electives away, and you bring your business license in, I'll give you your diploma. So that's what happened, and I ripped it up. I haven't needed it my whole life. Yeah, it would have helped with certain things, but I didn't need it. So for many, many years, I was pretty sure I'm just dumb, not very smart, but creative and can draw anything, and that was my skill set. I used to argue with people all the time that would say, does this light make a difference? Let me put that there. Maybe it does. Okay. Hi. People give me crap about my horrible spelling ability. I actually taught myself how to read, and I still struggle with it. And I tell people, well, can you draw anything just by looking at it precisely? And they would say, no, I can't draw like you can draw. And I said, well, I can't do English like you can. So it's just, what are you interested in? But I could teach you how to draw it. Oh, no, you can't. And they would say to me, I could teach you English. And I'm like, oh, no, you can't. And that's just the way it is. We're all built differently. So looking at my notes here, did horribly in school. And went many years just thinking my IQ's low. And I hated school. So after years of jobs, starting businesses, losing businesses, succeeding in business, the roller coaster ride I've been on, I think this story is very valid. A lot of you don't know this about me, but, and again, this is all not scripted, so I have to sit here and say, and I have to edit it. It would be so much easier if I scripted this. And as I haven't talked for a living in so long, the words just don't flow right. I pronounce things wrong and just deal with it. I catch myself in editing every time. It's like, just be real, whatever. So years and years went by, and this is after my huge success, my company in Colorado, after my meditation time in the mountains, and in 2007, when I got thrown back into civilization because the real estate market crashed. This is when I had to go back and find a job and go to work. I landed a job with a company called Silverleaf Electronics based out of Albany, Oregon. It was a dream job. It was basically traveling in a company RV, and I was head of their aftermarket department. And I would go to FMCA rallies, RV rallies, and hang out with people that own diesel pusher coaches, a lot of them wealthy, a lot of them self-made, and introduce them to our products, which were digital displays, readouts for pretty much everything on your coach, including the glass dash they would sell, which would replace all the analog gauges, and very high-tech stuff. It was way over my head. And the training I had was like a few hours, and then they threw me out in the field and said, just jump in and learn what you're doing. To them it was easy because they're programmers and engineers, and this is a whole different level of intelligence for me. I did okay. 8 months later I was laid off because the economy crashed. This is 2008 now, and it's gone. The whole RV industry was really affected by that crash. It's when gas hit over $4 a gallon. And now we're like used to it. Isn't that interesting? Like, I just can't believe this. Another career I wanted to keep, and I'm laid off. And so now what am I going to do? Well, I had a very dear friend of mine up in Alaska. He's the same guy I talked about in the dream, and what started me in the dream drawing stuff. I've known John for a long time, since 2006. We still talk today. I've yet to meet him in person. Isn't that fascinating? We met on MySpace. He calls me up and he says he had a vision, a dream of seeing me getting involved in hydrogen technology. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, I'm not that type of smart. He sent me a link to the basic 9th grade science of creating hydrogen using volts in water. And I went, wait a minute, I used to test water for a living. We used this thing called a precipitator, where you would put a positive and negative post in the water, and it would reveal what's in the water. And it would bubble, and these little bubbles were HHO gas hydrogen. And if you were to take those bubbles and capture them, which we'd take a lid, run a hose into it, into a glass of water, the soapy water would bubble up, and then you can take a lighter and it would boom, and it would explode. It was really that easy. And it all came to me then. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could see the possibility of vehicles or combustion engines running on this. So I started doing research on that and found out that technology's actually been around way before cars. They were using a battery type system in water and converting it into HHO gas, which is one form of hydrogen gas. So I turned into a mad scientist and trying to find a way to make an income now that I'm laid off. And this is the first time in my life I was on unemployment. Thank you, world, for that. Really needed it at that time. And so I started making these little hydrogen generators, and months went by and it started advancing, and I started researching it, and I would be up till 4 in the morning. I'm drawing on my wall like a mad scientist trying to figure this technology out. I'm on HHO gas forums. There was a lot of different people doing this in 2009. A lot of people discovered that HHO gas, hydrogen gas, is possible. So throughout the research, I found people like Stan Myers, where his video, I'll put a link to his video on the bottom. Stan Myers here, in 1991 or 92, came up with a 100% water ran buggy. Made national news. He had all sorts of foreign countries that wanted, he had a patent, there is a patent on it. And he had Saudi Arabia, I believe, offer him $1 billion to buy it. And he turned it down because he was a Christian man and he believed that we all deserve this free energy. And by the way, hydrogen gas exhausts 100% pure water. It's just amazing stuff. And I started really digging into this. Jack Nicholson, right here, I'll put the video link on the bottom if it's still available. He was all about it back in, 1978? So it's been around, and every time it creeps up, these people are being killed. Stan Myers, after Saudi Arabia sat down with him, he was at a Crackle Barrel. He was with his family, and his brother Bill was eating, and he says, "Oh my God, they poisoned me," and he actually died right there in Crackle Barrel. So there is a theory that he was killed because he wouldn't sell the plans, and he had patents on it. This has been going on, especially through the 90s, people that were discovering this technology. There was a guy in Portland that was also killed because of it. This has gone on for decades. So as I'm developing this, I want to point one thing out. I ran across a lot of struggles that were way over my head trying to figure out how to make this work in cars. And I forgot some of the stuff that some of the technology was called, but basically you're creating hydrogen on board at this time using electricity, and it takes that HHO gas, runs it into the throttle body of the engine, and it consumes it immediately. There's no storing hydrogen. And so I was making this, my own version of it, with a friend of mine, and we got really good at it. Now, it wasn't a 100% water ran car, but using a hydrogen generator is what it was called then, increased your mileage drastically, like 70%. And HHO gas is 1,000 times more volatile than gasoline. So basically what would happen is when the HHO gas would go into the cylinder, it would light up faster than the gasoline would and burn more evenly. So it was much more efficient. Plus it was blowing all the carbon and all the crap out of the engine. It was phenomenal stuff. And the exhaust readings we had on it would pass any emissions test because of that HHO gas in there. It was so clean. In fact, I had documents, I can't find them, that showed proof that HHO ran cars by the Department of Transportation didn't require even a muffler. This is all facts, and I was deep into it. Now I want to mention something, and I can't remember it off the top of my head, so I'll put it right here. I'll leave a good space for it right here. Nikola Tesla quote. I would run across these challenges way over my head, like I had to be able to manipulate the MAP sensor, the MAP sensor, which deciphers fuel and air mixture. And we created this device basically using a, what's it called, the switch? Basically using a, I forget the name of all this stuff. It's like if you don't use it, you lose it. A dimmer switch. What's it called? I'm not going to look it up. I used to say it all the time and I forgot what it is. Plus it's early in the morning. Precipitators. Forget it. I can't remember. Manipulate the map sensor, and you had to hook it up to the ECU, which is filled with a bunch of little wires, and you had to figure out which wire to run it through the ECU to use this dial that would be on your dash that would turn up and down, lean to rich. I'll never forget this because it happened to me multiple times coming up with this technology. I'd be up till 4 in the morning trying to figure it out, trying to make sure you don't clip the wrong wire. I went to bed, I fell asleep, and the answer came to my head. Very simple. out of the core. It said, why don't you just take the wire and run it straight to the map sensor versus trying to go through the ECU. Real simple. And so I got up 4:30 in the morning, and sure enough, it worked just fine. There was a lot of struggles I had. For example, people would say, the professionals, the engineers would say, there's no way to do this to newer cars. Their ECUs are so much more advanced with the O2 sensors, blah, 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 blah. There's no way you can dial it in. And then I was like, well, what other gases do we use that we've been using for a while that is a water vapor type of gas versus liquid? Well, propane. It's been around for decades. And so I found out that there is a tuning system when you would have your car converted, or your truck or whatever, like Schwann's food, all their trucks are converted into propane. It's a simple system that you can buy when you're converting your vehicle to run on 100% propane. That tunes all that technology in, the map sensors, the O2 sensors, all the emissions stuff. Problem solved. So I had a few customers. I started off, one was a very dear friend of the family, and we did her Nissan Maxima. It was really old. We put a system in there and it completely changed the dynamics of her engine. The fuel efficiency was over 70%. The car started running better because it's just blowing out all that crap. At this point, I was looking for funding now. And even though I've heard stories about people being killed revealing this technology, I most certainly didn't invent it, I just discovered it. I made the news. I was in the Bend Bulletin. You can actually still see it in there if you go to Bend Bulletin, H2O fuel, Bend, B-E-N-D, Bulletin. You'll see an article at that time, I think it was 2009. Of my company now I formed called United H2O. And then I was on Lars Larson's show, and he brought in a Boeing engineer, and we had a very short 3-minute conversation where they cut me off because the engineer was talking about laws of thermodynamics. It's impossible to create that much electricity through an alternator to convert the energy into HHO gas. And then I said to him, well, I don't understand, because I use very little volts to create hydrogen, and you take a lighter to it and it goes boom, it explodes, just like gasoline that pushes the cylinder down that creates an explosion, and that's how cars ran. I don't see what the problem is. So after I was on Lars, it's been years since I've done this, so I'm forgetting a lot of the terminologies and the readings and the math involved in this, and I'm trying to make this quick too, 21 minutes. Like the next day I got a weird call. I got a life-threatening call telling me to shut it down or else. And these weren't competitors. These were strange sounding people. I don't know if it was government or the oil industry. And then the next day I got another threatening call, and he mentioned the name of the guy in Portland that was killed for this technology, I think within the last year that I heard about. Very small circle of people at that time messing with HHO fuel. The same thing's going to happen to you if you don't stop doing this. So, and I had a bunch of big investors calling me up that wanted to invest millions of dollars in this technology. And I'd be honest with them, they'd say, how much is it going to take? And well, phase one is to master it to 100% water ran car without any gasoline, diesel, or anything else involved. So phase one, I don't know how much it's going to cost. I don't know how long it's going to take. So just then I got an email from Stan Meyer's brother, Bill Myers, and he sent me his brother's blueprints on what he was doing. And unbelievable, the secret to it is using frequencies, not electricity. And if you use just the right frequencies, it'll separate the oxygen and hydrogen and water without having any adverse effect on the water, like getting too hot or getting too dirty. Not putting enough of a catalyst in it, which you had to do. I had to start with distilled water and then add just the right amount of baking soda, the electrolyte, that would bubble up just enough to where it wasn't getting too hot and it was producing enough. That was the battle of using electricity. What Stan Myers discovered was using frequencies. And by the time I got the blueprint, which this is in 2009. You know, Stan died in 1992, 93, somewhere around there. He was more advanced than what people knew. He got it down to, like, if you see his buggy, there's this big machine on the back of his buggy that converts water into HHO gas. He got it down to just a fuel injector. It would take the water and convert it and separate the hydrogen and oxygen right at the point, this fuel injector that they would put in there. But at this point, it wasn't worth it to me. Another thing that happened, which was probably why I got this call, in the years that this technology has been trying to percolate up into our reality, which solves our energy crisis like you wouldn't believe it. Hydrogen technology made on board. I'm not talking liquid hydrogen. That's a joke. BMW did it. They had a 7 Series BMW that Jay Leno actually was given one of them, that there was a button on the dash. You can use gas or liquid hydrogen. And to make liquid hydrogen, you literally have to take hydrogen, which is the smallest substance in the world, in the universe, and you have to bring it to absolute zero. It's like just under minus 500 degrees to convert hydrogen from its gaseous substance into a liquid. And then you have to store this into a container, extremely dangerous. So what the technology tried to do was they wanted to keep us coming to the pump to pay for fuel. So instead of just running pure water through a system that converts it into HHO gas on board, which means you can just fill your car up with water. Is it true? Yeah. It's absolutely fact. I've seen it myself. It exists today. Japan, I think Toyota has actually came up with the car recently, although they've been around a long time. You know, this clip right here is from, I believe, 1993, without looking at my notes. God dang it, I should be more professional, but I just don't care. I've been doing this a lot of years and a lot of times. It hasn't paid off. And I used to be more professional and pop every goddamn thing possible. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't. So until I start seeing money coming in from doing this that's worth my time and effort, I've just reached that point where I'm burned out. But I keep throwing this stuff together because I enjoy it. So we'll just keep enjoying it. Back to the topic. So the technology has been around a long time, long time. And the oil industry, the governments, they can see how if we converted everything to running on 100% water, and I'm talking trucks, cars, boats, airplanes can all use this technology. We are so reliant on the oil industry, the world economy would collapse. They would have to ease this in. It's ridiculous, but we've done it to ourselves. I'm the only one at that time in the history of the water ran vehicle concept that got insurance from State Farm Insurance. And how we got it is hilarious. We had them, we called up my agent and I asked them, looking for insurance for this technology, not only to manufacture it, but for covering the vehicles we install it in. So I had a partner involved at this time, and they sent out 2 of their agents to investigate our technology. Well, we had this old pickup that we wanted to, that we put the system in to show them how it works. And when they came to investigate, we actually we turned the key on so the hydrogen generator was building up gas in the upper part of the engine just before the throttle body, and we purposely blew it up. We turned it on, turned the key up, and all the plastics on top just went bam and blew up. And they're like, why would we cover this? I said, well, we did that on purpose because we wanted to show you the last step that needs to be fixed is to make sure that the hydrogen generator isn't running unless the entire engine is on. So they have a switch that hooks up to the vacuum lines, and the engine actually has to run before it produces hydrogen or HHO gas on board. And they were so enthralled by it. One guy wanted to be part of our R&D department. Long story short, we got $1 million coverage on the manufacturing end of it, and also it covered the installation on any vehicle. So now I saw a marketing opportunity, and I held the rights to the policy, which means I can go to a mechanic shop and say, hey, we make these generators. We'll show you how to install it. Maybe you can teach us more about how to install in all these different setups in cars. And you will make money installing it, and we have insurance that we can put you under our umbrella. Also, other developers which had better systems than we did, there was quite a few across the nation that were developing HHO generators that had much more advanced systems than what I had. And I would get on the forums and say, I've secured insurance on this. And what the insurance company said is, anybody can go under the umbrella, but I have to approve of it. And I could charge anything I want. I could charge normal, the normal business insurance yearly rate, which is what's cheap. Or I could charge thousands if I wanted to. And all these other companies were really pissed off because they just wanted to know how I got the insurance. I said, no, I've watched too many people ruin a good thing, and I'm not going to. But if you want yours insured, I have to inspect it. And I'm not saying my system's better than yours. We need to come together and figure this out. So the money that you put in for your yearly coverage under my umbrella, we're going to put that into a nice interest earning account. And the mission is nobody's going to spend it unless somebody has something happen to in the manufacturing process, or you hurt somebody's car. Instead of contacting State Farm Insurance to cover that, we will use that combined money to pay for the damages, like our own insurance company that we're all pitching in on. This will all be in writing. It'll all be agreed on. And the reason why we want to do that is we want no claims. No claims as long as we can go, covering things to build up the reputation for the insurance. That, God, I used to be able to talk so much better. To assure the insurance companies are covering something that's safe, and preferably no record of any claims whatsoever. And then after a certain period of time, we would take the interest earned and divide it between all of us and continue. That was my plan. I'm missing so much. I can just go on and on about this. I'm tired of talking about things that I've done, that I put a lot of time and energy into. This is another one of them that had great potential of growing big. I was forced to shut it down because of the threats. It was something I couldn't get involved in, and I knew they were very for real, and I know that those calls were not joking. You can just tell when you're having a real threat. These were real. It was nobody faking it. So today the technology exists. Toyota has it. It's up and running. The military used the same technology for a charging backpack, where they would carry this on a backpack and all their electronical stuff. They would use that as a charging device. They have 100% water ran torches, blow torches. In Japan, they have HHO gas cooking stoves where you just use water. That's all I want to say about it. I've got a lot of stories like this. I've had a lot of, and to kind of recap, when I dove into the hydrogen technology, that's when I realized that maybe I'm not dumb. In fact, maybe I'm a little smarter than the average. I don't know if that's the truth. It's just, I call it tapping into the core, like Tesla talked about. And if you know anything about what the core is, it's a unified field. It covers everything. Everything that we see, all matter that exists, can't exist without the unified field and abstract potentiality, which means everything is possible. So that's it. That's all I'm going to say about it, and I'm going to edit and put it together really crappy because I'm getting burned out. I still like making them, but I can't make people follow my channel, and I do have some folks that really enjoy it, and I'm going to share all the feelings associated with everything that I'm doing, as Muji puts it, and the monks actually put it, I'm in the lion's mouth. And maybe I'm talking about these things to kind of release my extremely unique past. And who knows, I might reach a point where I'm just done with YouTube and fade off into the world and just be done with this all. Tired.